For many people, the sight of $5,000 in savings represents a rare moment of breathing room met with quiet panic. It feels significant enough to do something with, yet small enough to disappear if a single car repair or medical bill arrives. You might be sitting at your kitchen table looking at an app, feeling a strange mixture of pride and intense pressure. The pride comes from the discipline it took to move those $5,000 past the gravitational pull of daily expenses, but the pressure starts building. You feel like you are falling behind because that money is not working. There is a persistent cultural narrative that money sitting still is being wasted. We are told constantly that inflation is eating away at our purchasing power, or that we are missing out on the next great market cycle. This creates a psychological itch to move the money into something complex or high growth as quickly as possible, seeking a fast-paced financial win. The common belief is that $5,000 is a seed for planting. It must be put in an investment vehicle immediately to be useful. We assume the primary goal is turning $5,000 into $6,000. This is done through a clever market maneuver or high-yield fund. This belief feels true because it aligns with our deep desire for progress. It also stems from our constant and overwhelming fear of financial stagnation. However, this logic assumes that the greatest risk you face is a lack of investment growth, when for most middle-income earners, the greatest risk is actually a lack of structural stability. When we dismantle the idea that $5,000 is an investment seed, we begin to see it for what it actually is, which is a structural shock absorber. If you take that money and lock it into a volatile market or a 5-year certificate of deposit, you have technically put the money to work, but you have also stripped yourself of the ability to handle a sudden shift in your fixed costs. The trade-off for potential growth is often a total loss of maneuverability. In a household where the monthly expenses total $4,000, having $5,000 in the bank means you have exactly 5 weeks of peace if your income stops. That is the reality of the math. If you move that money into an aggressive stock fund and the market drops 20% in the same month, your car transmission fails. You have not optimized your wealth, you have actually increased your overall financial fragility. You now have $4,000 in a falling market and a $3,000 repair bill, which forces you to sell at a loss or go into high-interest debt to cover the gap. This is the order of operations that many people skip because they are focused on the ceiling of their potential wealth rather than the floor of their current security. Money is a tool for managing constraints, and for someone earning $60,000 a year, those constraints are very real. You cannot outwork a bad financial structure with effort alone. If your rent or mortgage consumes 35% of your take-home pay and your debt service takes another 15%, you are living on a thin margin where $5,000 is not a luxury, but a critical component of your survival architecture. We have to normalize the idea that for many people, the smartest move is to do nothing with the money other than letting it sit in a boring FDIC-insured account. This is not a lack of ambition, it is an acknowledgement of life stage realities and the true cost of financial security. At a certain income level, the most productive thing your money can do is stay liquid, so that it can prevent you from ever needing to use a credit card at 24% interest again. The usefulness of $5,000 depends entirely on your stay of life, not your intelligence. For a 22-year-old with no dependents and low rent, that money might represent a 6-month safety net that allows for a career pivot. For a 40-year-old with 2 children and a mortgage, that same $5,000 is barely a month of breathing room, and acting like it is a ticket to wealth building is a dangerous miscalculation for your financial future. People often behave in ways that seem irrational to outsiders, like keeping $5,000 in a checking account that earns almost zero interest while they still have a small balance on a personal loan. From a purely mathematical standpoint, they should pay off the loan to save on interest, but behaviorally, that person might be holding on to the cash because the psychological weight of an empty bank account is heavier than the cost of the interest. Under pressure, we prioritize the feeling of having options. We have to understand that humans are not calculators, and our financial decisions are often shaped by a need to feel safe in an unpredictable economy. When you have $5,000 saved, you are finally at a point where you can stop reacting to every small emergency and start observing your own patterns. You might notice that every time you reach this milestone, a specific recurring expense crops up, or you feel a sudden urge to upgrade a lifestyle component that was perfectly fine a month ago. These are the moments where wealth is actually built, not through a brokerage app, but through the decision to remain boring and consistent. The reality of building a stable life in America today is that it happens in quiet, non-dramatic increments, where the most important move is often the one that provides the most clarity. As you move through different income levels, the way you view $5,000 will change. But the principle of sequence remains the same. You cannot build a durable second floor on a house that has a cracked foundation, and for most people, $5,000 is the first solid piece of that foundation. It is the buffer that turns a potential crisis into a mere inconvenience. It allows you to say no to bad opportunities,